Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is FTB Track and Field, and this is the debut show by myself, Omondi Juma, and I'm so excited. I know we're late. I know it's not my fault; it's someone else's fault. But we're here today to talk all things track and field. One of my favourite subjects. You know me for football and boxing, but this is my little secret love that I have, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Brogan McCafferty, who's a 100 and
Hi.
200-meter starlet. And downstairs, we have an Olympian, that'd be Marylin Okoro, who's one of my heroes. I don't want to say a bit starstruck, but welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we go.
Thank you.
Wow, what a theme tune. What do you like that music? Eh? I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. All right, here we go. Here we go. So, guys, what we're talking about today, it's a great time to give a little summary about what you guys have done in the past, what you're doing currently in track and field, and I'm going to start with you, Brogan, because I'll just give you a little background here. Now, Brogan's dad and me are really tight. He's a good friend of mine. We grew up playing football together. We've gone on tour together. We've had so many laughs, things I can't even tell you on here. You know, I love the man. I met him recently, and obviously he told me about you because he had a lot of stamina back then. He was a great 1500-meter runner, great cross-country runner, just full of stamina. And whereas I was a sprinter, he would just go for miles and miles and miles of days. So that's Gary McCafferty, your father, and I salute him. He's a good friend of mine. And when I was so impressed because he showed me what you've been doing, he said, "Yeah, my daughter does a bit of track, and I've seen the footage, what you've been up to." But yeah, Brogan, give us a little lowdown, a little summary, and tell me why you're in love with track and field and what you've achieved so far, please.
Even though I hate to admit it, it's probably through my dad. He did get me into it, but he got me into the wrong side of it. I was a cross-country runner for, I'd say, about 2 years, and then I just kind of fell in love with the last little sprint to get it over with. So I just kind of went on and turned out that I had the speed from it, which I think came from my mum. She was a 100-meter runner. So I kind of got my speed from her, even though my dad wouldn't like me saying that, but I've got to tell the truth. And then I'm just too competitive. Like, I'm way too competitive. And I thought I just put that into a sport where I could win. And I like that it's like a solo sport. So like, or everything you do in training is in your performance, not as like a team. But then I'm also, I love the relay so much. So it's like athletics just works for me.
So what have you done this year? Because I've been checking out your times and they're very impressive. I mean, but this is going way back in the season. We're going back to February. You were at Lee Valley Stadium, didn't you, do the 60 meters?
Yeah, I went to Lee Valley. So towards the end of my winter training, we did a few competitions just to make sure we still had our speed and just get us into the kind of the environment of competing. Yeah, I got a PB in that, which I was really, really happy with. And then I just the PB just kind of started rolling in after that, like the 100 and then the 200. They just started coming week after week after week. And then I realized if I keep putting the work in, hopefully I can go sub 12 seconds, which I would love to do. But, you know, all the training's got to come first.
Well, you're not far away. You've got a 12.38. You've also got a 12.22, but the wind was like 5.2 following wind. But you're not far off it, are you? So it's been a season of PBs for you so far. Long may it continue, you know. Coming to you, Marylin, if you take your mute off, ready to go. Marylin, to ask you probably answered this question 1,000 times, but what made you fall in love with athletics, you know? And can you just give us a brief summary? Well, it's not going to be brief with you, but tell us about your career, your achievements, and what you're still achieving to this day. So what made you fall in love with athletics, Marylin?
Well, this is just an example of that. So first of all, thank you so much, Omondi, for having me on here. Thank you for shining a light on track and field. It's my passion to just be that mantelpiece for athletics. It's beautiful to be here with Brogan and just hearing her excitement and her passion. And that's where it started for me. I started track at 10 years old. It really was an outlet. I didn't really have much knowledge going into it. I just knew I was fast and I like winning. So this was definitely a haphazard journey. My first coach was a huge part of that. He was so much more than a coach. I'm a Shaftesbury Barnet Harrier, so big up the stripes. And he literally ensured that not only did he pull out my talent, but he kept me in the sport. I'm Nigerian, so best believe this was not the career my mum had planned when I was in her womb. She needed a lawyer or a doctor. And she was like, I didn't send you to school to run. Read your book, read your book. So yeah, I had from very early, I knew there's no's going to be in this journey. And I'm the eldest. You know my brother very well. I was the one that didn't ever argue back. I did as I was told, but this was my opportunity. And I think I literally have been a good runner all my life, and running was the vehicle to so much. And it all started at school. It started with connection. It started with community. So like literally the track and field bit, I didn't fall in love with it till later, but it's what it could afford me, what it symbolized for me as a young child growing up in Stonebridge, and then getting this opportunity to go to this school, and I had to cling on to my athletics. It was going to get me scholarships. So that was kind of my mindset with my sport. There were other sports I loved. I loved tennis. Inside my Serena Williams is there. I love netball. I love lacrosse, but athletics was what was accessible to me because I could do it anywhere. So that's fine.
And achievements. Now, I know all about your career. I'm sure Brogan does too. But tell the FTB fans out there what you've achieved in the sport.
Yeah, do you know what? So my retirement, I'm like a year into it, and I need to remind myself sometimes. So I'm a 2-time Olympian. Beijing 2008 was my first games, and 2012. I've been to 4 World Championships and umpteen Europeans, Commonwealth Games twice, got an Olympic bronze medal, World Champs bronze medal, bare European bronzes and silvers in the 800 and the 4x4. So, you know, it's only when you stop do you actually appreciate it. So one piece of advice I give to Brogan right now is enjoy every step of the way, enjoy the moment, enjoy the lactic, but also those victories, celebrate them, because we're very quick to just go on to the next. And I didn't often appreciate what I was doing. You know, I am one of the most prolific 800-meter runners, you know, we have in the world. I'm a combination athlete, 400, 800. So both my times are quite unique. And yeah, I didn't realize or appreciate what I was achieving. I was pretty good, you know, and I am 9th ranked now because the sport has moved on, but it will do. But for a lot of my career, I was top 10 in the world. I, you know, was top, you know, UK #1 many times. I've won, you know, nationals 5, 6 times. So yeah, I worked really hard, and I was in a season where there was a lot of drugs in sport, and I was running against drugs cheats a lot, which is something that impacted my journey. So yeah, hats off to me, pat myself on the back, and I'm very much enjoying retirement now.
Because backstage, guys, we were Brogan was talking about some of the training drills she does, and Marylin's like, "What do you mean? That's nothing, you know."
I'll let her up because I'm an 800 runner, so you know,
yeah.
More than 2 300s for sprinters, that's a lot. But you know, for 800, we used to do 15 or 12 of short recovery. I needed to do that to have that stamina for the 800. So and 300s was a nice distance for me.
So we've got some really fast Twitch athletes here on the arena today. I just want to ask you guys about the grassroots of athletics and schools and what goes on there. Can we just both of you just talk briefly about the progress? If you're a young athlete, you said you started at 10 years old, you spotted. But if you're a young athlete and you want to get into track and field, what is the progression here? So you obviously sports day maybe at 8, 9, 10 years old. And what happens after that? Can you start us off, Brogan?
Well, for me, I did start off at sports day, and then like mini school competitions like districts I used to go to a lot, and it would just be schools versus schools, just a bit of fun, and it'd be like little competitions like, oh, my school's faster than your school, like it was all just fun at the start. And then I kind of I was doing some training like with my dad and long distance training and stuff like that, but there was actually, he wasn't a scout, but he was a coach looking for sprinters. and he was at one of our districts, and he saw me, and they handed a leaflet and was like, if you come down, you can train with us, and then we can get you into a few competitions, and you can start working your way up to bigger clubs from us. So that's kind of how I got into, firstly, Windsor, because I just started training with the sprint group, like the development group of Windsor, and then I moved my way up to my group now.
Marylin, do you want to add to that? What do you feel about the grassroots of athletics in the UK? Because I know in America the collegiate circuit is absolutely like amazing. Everyone goes over there. People from the Caribbean, even from the UK, they end up there for the training. Is outstanding, isn't it? So where do you think the UK needs to sort of step it up to get sort of more young people involved in athletics?
So what I would say is like our grassroots from like the beginning is not bad actually. We do have that good sort of scholastic system, and our clubs are so good at engaging with young talent. I go to a lot of schools up and down the country, and that's often a question: how do I get into athletics? Join your local club. So start with your PE teachers. They can point you in the right direction. There's a lot more athletes going into schools, talking to young minds. And so that message is well communicated. I am very passionate about the club system. I would love to see it developed a lot more, because I spent a lot of my career running domestically, and I ran fast time in the UK. I think a lot of athletes think they need to go abroad. But I mean, look at the summer we're having. So I think if you plan it right, if you can run in Watford and run a fast time, why wouldn't you? Our facilities, we do need to step up our facilities, but we do have them. I did work in the US. I worked at University of Central Florida, so I saw what the NCAA systems got to offer. It's a big business. I think that's where we kind of let ourselves down, because at university level, where so much comes into play, so many decisions to make, and a sport like track and field, it's not attractive. It doesn't compete. Whereas in the States, you get a full ride, you're getting your education paid for, you've got an amazing structure of races to go into. We competed from August right through till May, and then they came over and did the European circuit. So, there's so much to choose from. And so that's where I would love to see, especially at that developmental age, 16, 17, 18, where life starts getting involved. I'd like to see that structure tightened up a bit. We have 2 meets a year, indoor, box, if that's what it's called now, and outdoor. That's not enough. We need to get our rivalries up. So whether the clubs can play a part in that, that would be good. But we somehow need to we're very disjointed. Everyone's doing things in their silos. We need to come together. I work with the British Milers Club, and obviously the name lends to longer distances, but I'd love to see them do some more sprints. We put on some 400s last season. There's a series that goes, and just the opportunity. And that's what I found in the States. We would go to the States and train for 12 weeks because the opportunity to race was there to back up our training. So yeah, we have some great schools, and they're really understanding the importance of the creative side and the power of harnessing sporting role models and the power of sport. But it's then we funnel all the kids into there, and it's like, where can they go from here?
So, Brogan, do you think it's a case of like funding as well? Because I know there was a big thing with the lottery funding. A lot of athletes would be allocated lottery funding to sort of help them with their careers, and so they can go full time, for example. But then the ones that wouldn't be allocated, some of them would their career would just nosedive. Have you noticed that with some athletes?
I mean, I think our funding, I think it's solely your club. Like, if you have a well-known club, your funding and all your equipment is kind of at a higher quality than most. But I think, like Marylin said, I think if everyone came together and it was just like it is in the States, so united, everyone kind of has a love for it like we do, then equipment and facilities will skyrocket so easily, because it's so more accepted and well known in that way. So
what about
I think
regard to travel though? So say you've got a competition up north, would the who has to pay for that? Would that be the club?
Well, with my club, because we pay track fees and then subs to run, most clubs do. So in September, I have a race in Manchester, and obviously I'm down in Maidenhead. So our coaches kind of put all our subs together to whoever's running, and they get our coach, they pay for our hotel. So a lot of the club sort that out. If they need help from the parents, our club's quite good at communicating in that way. Like, we need help paying for so and so the parents could chip in, and then it's always kind of changing for my club. 1 minute the club will pay for all of it, and then if they need help, the parents are more than happy to put some money forward.
I know with like in the West Indies, they were unbeaten at cricket for 25 years, and then it's deteriorating now because most of the young talents, they go to NBA or American football or other sports where it's professional and you're going to get paid much more. Is that the same with athletics, Marylin? Do you think what do you do? Oh, sorry, just to add to that question, with terrestrial TV, the BBC used to put out a lot of athletics when I was growing up. Especially, I'm 46 now, but I've grown up on Sebco and the early 80s and that era of the milers. There was some fantastic milers back then, and it was always on television. I don't think the coverage is good anymore. Do you think that's detrimental to the sport as well? To add to my earlier point.
Yeah, we are commercially really poor. We have a lot of work to do in terms of, getting our athletes known. No one is a household name unless you have a shiny gold medal. And I'll tell you something, it is hard to make your team. It is hard to go to a championship and come away with any medal. So, because of how inclusive athletics is, there's so many people, you just have to look at the Commonwealth Games to know, and the world champs. People come from any corners of the earth. So realistically, just funding or shining a light on medalists is not a healthy culture, and that's one in the UK, unfortunately, we have. We would rather have our 4 eggs in a basket and just show them off to the world. And I've always been about chase the 99, because I've enjoyed funding. I've enjoyed having that recognition because of my medals. I've also been kicked to the curb, and at the end of the day, I worked just as hard when I had a medal when I didn't, if not harder probably, to maintain it. There's one thing getting to the top, there's nothing staying there, and the pressures that come with it. And I think one of the most difficult things that happen to our sport, because you don't get into track and field today because you are looking to get paid. You go and play football or golf. It is because we love the sport, because it's not lucrative, because of these things. And so I think we have to get a bit more innovative. We have to collaborate, and we have to empower the athletes. So one thing I say to young athletes is, please do not think you've made it because you're on funding or you're trying to get on funding, then you make it. Make it, because I actually had to run 1:59.86 to get on funding. That is a world-class time. And if I was in any other country, I would have already had sponsorship. So think about yourself as a brand. Think about your lifestyle. Who can you partner with that is going to support you as an individual and sponsor your physio, sponsor your travel? I didn't learn these things till I was too late. This is why I talk to athletes about branding and lifestyle, because if you're waiting for funding, but they're going to fund 30 people, it's unrealistic. Yeah. So we see a lot of people coming off the track or the field and having their interviews and saying, I'm a teacher, I'm going back to work on Monday. There's a lot of us that are dual, triple career. And I learned this mentality because I had a hard life growing up. And in uni, I was doing a degree in French and politics, and I worked 2 jobs because I did my training, and I did 2 sports at uni actually until I just made the Commonwealth Games team. So that same hunger, I've kept it all the way through. Sometimes you work so hard to get somewhere, and then you get funding, and then you get a little bit lazy. It is not a sign that you don't believe in yourself if you're doing something else. I found my retirement so hard, and athletes will struggle with it because you just suddenly want to be full time, and that's cool. There is a period in your life where you do just want to do that. You're traveling, you're learning, you're developing in your physicality. But I was always someone that's how my brain works, and you're also building your brand as you go along. So I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket, is something else I say, because when you finish, and that is the only guarantee, one day you will not be doing your sport, you need something else. And you need to fill that void, and why not build that along with you? If it's podcasting you're into, start doing all your Instagram stories, whatever they're on, Snapchat, TikTok, all that stuff is building your brand, getting people aware. When you need sponsorship, you've already got a following. Don't rely solely on the federation, because it's a lot of pressure. I now sit on the board of directors, and I have such a different appreciation for how hard it is for them to get all this stuff together. And I'm hopefully bringing my experience so they can have a bit more of an idea of the athlete voice and what we go through. But they're so far attached because funding is attached to medals. And at the end of the day, there's only 3 medals each competition. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, but we need to get track and field back on the map. Um, and we need to bring it back to people's homes. That's why I was so happy about. I was up in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham.
Yeah,
You know,
I saw you.
Birmingham turned out. And that is
Yeah.
like taking athletics, world class athletics, to the
Mm.
community, and that's what we need to do. And like we were saying, Rogan said there, if everyone can collaborate, we'll get a lot further.
Definitely. Just to add to the point, because you're talking about branding and reinventing yourself in a way. I'm seeing, well, I have to salute Carl Lewis, because in the 80s, he sort of changed it, went from amateur and started to get a lot of sponsorship from his branding. And whatever way he did it, he was advertising. He was a big face, and and he's a big name as well. And he made the most. I think he maximized his potential earnings and really helped a lot of other athletes earn a lot of money in the sport by revolutionizing the track and field. And before that, no one really did that. It was such an amateurish kind of thing with no money in it, and doctors getting paid maybe more than the athletes. It seems sometimes, especially in these Eastern Bloc countries. But so Brogan, do you ever thought about having a gimmick and having a bit of attitude like your favorite runner, Noah Lyles?
He's awesome.
That's a joke, by the way, about Noah.
I don't know. I feel like when you're on the track, you're only there for one thing. Like, you're there to race. You don't need to intimidate or like try and act like you're bigger than someone, because you don't know, that could be their first race and they are so nervous. And by you just like trying to be the big guy on the track, you need to just focus on your own race, because I've seen so many times people being cocky or having an attitude and they turn out to have a bad race. It might not happen every time, but you've got to focus on your own race and don't try and tell someone else what to do, or because most of the time they know what they're doing, and you like trying to give them attitude or act like you're bigger than them is only gonna hurt you in your race, because if you don't do as well, they're going to be like, well, you had all this attitude and you didn't, and it's going to make them so much more nervous. When I get we're racing against each other, but it's like we're all there for one reason. We all have the same passion, so why can't we just share it instead of like using it against each other?
I'm going to throw this out. We're going to have a three-way discussion about this. I hear your point, but I'm thinking if you want to earn money and you want to be successful, and as Marylin was saying earlier, it's all about the gold medals or the free medals, how you get your sponsorship. I mean, I remember Linford Christie used to wear some outrageous suits, for example, and Maurice Green, for example. Everyone had a little gimmick thing, and if they were questioned about it, about sportsmanship and thing, because one thing I will say, athletes are the nicest people in the world, in my opinion, as you just proven to me, Brogan, with your response. But sometimes you have to be selfish in a way, I think, and to really help the sport grow, you have to have a little bit of a gimmick, a bit of attitude, maybe, and a bit of personality to sort of shine, and take the rough with the smooth. If you do get criticized by your fellow runners, whatever, I think they should understand when you're trying to help the sport grow. And that's what I see Noah Lyles doing. I remember Noah Lyles in the under 17s or under 20s, young little short afro thing, running really innocent. And now you see him, it's like he's been told to exactly. What your thoughts on that, Marylin? Do you agree with Brogan? Do you think you have something balanced here?
I think it's cultural. I've trained here, I've trained in the States. One thing people hopefully will say, and I think my character follows me wherever I go, is I love people. I love to connect. I will speak to you. When I get on my lane, I'm not really watching or checking for you. I'm not necessary. I'm a confident person. My self-esteem is high. And I got that from what I'd done and what I trained. So my friend would know if I wasn't smiling on the track, oh, she's nervous. And so, I'm used to the American way as well. I'm also Nigerian. We're very proud. Please, we don't take last. We know they carry last at all. So, what I will say is, yes, absolutely focus on you, because you can't control what everyone else is doing. So if me being me and showing up authentically as me makes you nervous, that is your problem. I'm not going out my way to make you nervous. So my thing is I used to sing a lot because that's what calmed me down. So I used to work on what was going to keep me relaxed. I need to smile. I need to, because that's, it's not just I'm smiling for the sake of it. I smile for many, many reasons. And when I was competing, I need to smile because that is sending signals to relax. And so I had to surround myself with people that helped me smile. And so if people didn't help me smile, I was not going to be around them. I sang, and it annoyed people. Like my rivals would be like, she was always bloody singing in the call. That's me. That's what I need to do. Don't listen, focus. And that's why your focus needs to be amazing, because I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was doing it I was doing it on purpose because I needed to do it, but I wasn't doing it, oh, I'm just going to do it because I'm going to annoy them. When you take that focus off yourself, that's when you start sabotaging yourself. Many athletes have their rituals. So that is, and when you look at the best people in the world, they stay them wherever they go. Usain Bolt did what all his shenanigans. He was like that in the canteen, in the village, at home, in his yard. He was always that. And when people started trying to be, let me be like Usain Bolt, that's when they get into trouble. So for me, my coach told me one time, you're not serious because you're always smiling and you're singing and da, da, da. So I was like, okay, headphones, let me be serious. And that, I had the worst race ever. So I would just say, like, you have to be authentically you all the time. I sing everywhere I go. That was always me.
Till this day?
So to this day, yeah, I'm in the choir. I love to sing at work. And that's what keeps me relaxed. That's what keeps me happy. That's what keeps me performing at a high level. So yeah, I'm conscious that this generation are very aware. It's funny Brogan said what she said, because I was at church yesterday talking to some of our youth, and we were talking about pride and arrogance. And he was like, is it okay? Because I have this self-dialogue I tell myself, and I want to be better than everyone else. Is it wrong? And I was like, well, first of all, it's where your focus is. Obviously I'm Christian, so I knew a lot of my strength and my source was coming from God. That's my belief. No one can tell me any different. But I also wasn't checking for anyone else. So he was saying that, if I told myself a certain way and then I acted a certain way, then everyone else would see that and then they'd believe in me. And I was like, that's where you're going wrong. You believe in you and you give out that energy, and your performance will talk for itself. But also, if you believe in you or not, it's not your business. But I know the generation now, and I do a lot of youth work, they're very, very, and society is this way inclined, especially with social media. They're very conscious of other people's opinions. And a good coach told me, Mr. Johnny Gray, the opinions of others can't dictate who you are, what you do. And your character is who you are when no one's watching. So I always try to show up my authentic self wherever I go.
Hopefully Brogan's going to come back. She's
like, I don't like this.
So you talk about nervous, and what makes me nervous? Well, I'm not running, but for any young runner out there,
me either.
21 and 22 performances. Are we in an era now of amazing performances? Even last night in Monaco, the times were just off the chart.
Records.
Every week there seems to be a record being broken. We're not going to go into too much detail as to why. Let's just admire the performances that we're seeing out there, because we're still going to start off with the Olympics last year. And let's deal with your event. We had in 800 meters, we had Keely Hodgson. Now she, I think did she get a bronze in the Olympics last year? Silver. Oh, sorry, two silvers. Yeah, but a bit more distance this time behind the thing. So that was an amazing performance from her. But we said obviously she was behind Mo. Is it a girl's name Mo?
I think Mo.
Who's just come out. Yeah, who's, I mean, as a youngster, has been running fantastic times indoor and transferred that to the outdoor. And last year, obviously at the Olympics, she really came on and just blew it away, front running like yourself from the front, and just got a natural stride and everything else. So let's talk about Mo and the 800 meters. Just for the last Olympics, Worlds, and what we've seen. I didn't see the Commonwealth. I did see the Commonwealths, actually. I did, yeah. So what do you think is going on with the 800 meters? Because if you go back to like the late 70s, early 80s, we know what was going on. But there were some times there that seemed like untouchable. 153s, the Czech girl, obviously, and in Moscow, I remember the Moscow Olympics as well. There's a 153 from the home athlete. Yeah. That's right. So when you get into the event and you see sort of times like that, because this has been still to this day, that's one of the longest running records. How do you feel about that in your area? Because anything under 2 minutes for me is a world-class time, and you've smashed that so many times. But so what do you think there's been lulls, hasn't there, where there's been 2 minutes, 2 minutes. You had Kelly Holmes come along, Diane Muldow before you was around, in the event. So now we're in a stage where obviously we had the South African athlete and Pamela Jamila. You were running
Delimo,
with
that was my
Pamela as
girl,
well.
yeah.
My God, yeah. I mean,
Janice,
did you come
Janice
out of it?
Kipkoskai, all of them. Yeah,
Wow.
I came into
Matola.
a golden era. I don't feel I ran my fastest. My career goal was always 154, 155. That's what I saw. And that was what I tried to run many times. I think I should have run 156 had we got all the ducks in a row, had my life been a bit more conducive to just training. Um,
Yeah.
but those were the girls I watched, Maria Matola, Anna Kiro. They were kind of my people I looked up
Oh,
to.
Kira, wow.
Yeah, and we had the Eastern Bloc or the Russian Federation doing all sorts,
Yeah.
and so we were often running. We kind of were just running to try and keep up with them, which was it's annoying, but we also knew why. But also, I felt like it could be done. I trained with Danny Crates. I was running down the boys. I was like, that's my mindset. If it's out there, I'm going to chase it down, and all I can do is shoot for, the stars. But it was a very difficult era because, realistically, the bodies couldn't do what we're doing. I know now technology's moved on. When them spikes came out, I was like, I wish I had a chance because it works with my mechanics and how I wanted to run. The other thing against me was the mentality in the UK is all distance, distance, distance. They weren't used to someone like myself. Even Kelly Holmes was 1500. She did a lot of over distance. And I'm
Yeah.
someone that I just need the right amount of volume in the correct way. And there wasn't really, no disrespect to any coaches, but there wasn't really anyone that was adventurous enough or knew how to work with a combination athlete, which is what excites me about a thing Moo, because she is both of those, even the new Kenyan girl, Mora, right now, you
Yeah.
need speed. And it's like they're finally clocking you need speed, but they get speed by strength. And at the end of the day, raw speed is something that was natural to me, but we never tapped into it. I'm a 400 runner, but I didn't run the many fours. I always did the relay legs. So, those, when people say, oh, what would you change? There's a few things that I would like to change, but I can now change that by giving back because often 400, 800 runners come to me and they're like, my coach is making me choose. Why? They both complement each other. Even if
Yeah.
you just purely do that to break up your season, that is good because you don't get burnout. But yeah, these performances are electric. Keely, I always say she put me into retirement because I was up north training and she came to my group and I said, peace out. um, not
This
literally,
was
but
when was this? A couple of years ago?
yeah, so I moved up to Wigan when I came back from the States. So 2018, I went to Wigan and I was like, trained Jenny Meadows' husband and coach Trevor. They, kindly like extended an olive branch. Not that there was any beef, but we were rivals, big
Yeah, of
rivals for
course.
many years. But they were just like, whatever you need, let's try it. You're just gonna feel it's better to try and know rather than regret. So I was like, okay, let's see. I was kind of at a loss of what I wanted to do anyway. So change of scenery, went up there. I feel like, oh my gosh, this would have been cool to like both have been running at the same time and use that because that's one thing the Americans are very good at. They work together.
Yeah,
Rivals can work together, and then on the track, it is what it is. But you're gonna push each other. Iron sharpens iron. We don't really do
of
that in the UK.
course.
We like to keep. And the thing is, there's no secret. Like at the end of the day, everyone always goes like, you tell your sessions. I'm like, yeah, because my sessions are like I'm gonna do it how I do it and get the benefit from it. Someone else may not be able to handle it and you need to tweak it. So I think, that's one of the things when I talk about collaboration, we could do a bit better because there really isn't really when you've got talented people, there's no magic. It's just consistency, support network, and making sure you're listening to their body. Yay, Brogan's back. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, so Keely, I went up to Wigan and I had some good times. I think for me, my issue was never the training. Training was an escape to everything. That was the easy part. 800 meters is not a hard event for me because life off the track was so much harder.
Yeah.
But I liked it when she came along. She was injured actually at first, so I didn't get to do much training with her. But I used to watch her a lot. And if you talk about someone with swag, that's Keely Hodgkinson. She was just so
Wow.
sure of herself. Like she was biking the whole winter, and I was like in my head, I was like, aren't you worried you're not going to have a season? She was just cool as a cucumber. And for someone so young, she's got the most mature racing head. She is well supported. That's what I saw. She has an incredible support network. Like I
Okay.
remember when I went to Wigan, I was like, what are all these parents doing here? Like, why are you at the track? You know, because it was so different to me. Like, and yeah, that support network, that coach just really paying attention to what your strengths and weaknesses are and tailoring your training to that. And again, injuries are part and parcel of it, so they're going to happen. But what is your resort? Who's going to help patch you back together? How are you going to adjust? How are you going to be innovative? She spends a lot of time cross training, and that's a sensible move. I think sometimes we think, oh my god, if I don't run, I'm going to lose this. No, how else can you get the same effect? Because there is more than one way to skin a cat, and there is a culture of overtraining in sport, period. But especially in track and field, especially in the UK, especially in middle and long distance. And at the end of the day, what we see is a lot of broken bodies. And then they realize, oh, I didn't need to train that hard. And I was definitely one of those people. Less was definitely more with me. And yeah, so that's one of the things I'm always mindful of, like, make sure you learn your body and listen to it, because if you don't listen to it, by force, it will make you.
Just to add, so Brogan obviously does a 100 and 200. And that's traditional. If a lot of athletes can combine the two, but I think it's like but in '76, the great Cuban, he won the 400 and the 800 double.
Yeah, that was.
And I don't think we've seen that done since by any athlete. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. So why do you think it is? Because I'm looking at his build, like a build of a 400-meter runner, and then a build of an 800-meter runner, and it's slightly different thing. But why do you think that doesn't happen? Because you combine the both. You got great times in both, like top 10 UK all time for 800 meters. I don't know what your 400 was, but why do you think
they don't flat? I think people just are a little bit scared. I mean, my dream was to go to a world champs or go to some championship and do both, because that's what I saw Maria Matola doing. That's what I saw Anna Kira doing. But, coaches were not, I always say they just weren't brave like I was. And, I felt like I just had to do what I was told for a lot of my career. I wish I was as bold as I am now, or I was towards the end. I think people are scared. Like, when you go to the States, you see a lot of multi-sports. I worked in recruitment for, upcoming rising high schoolers and trying to get them on the team. And they're like, well, I'm going to see what soccer is going to offer me. And I'm like, we can do both. We can split the scholarship, and you can come and you can do football actually, and you can do track and field. So I think that's where we're, very early, they're trying to specialize. She's going to be a 1500-meter runner. Well, if she's doing this, and this at school, just be mindful of that when she comes to the track. Work on the sharpness, work on the conditioning. I think I lent myself to 400, 800 because I did play tennis, I did play netball, I played lacrosse. Now, lacrosse is the boundaryless game, so I was running start, stop all the time, and I got a lot of my speed endurance from that game. And George was smart, because then when I came to the track, he worked on the bits that weren't put in there in the week. Whereas I get a lot of parents saying, she's doing this 6 days a week, and she needs to not do no more running. Like, when's she resting? When's she doing school? When's she doing friendships? When's she doing family time? So yeah, I think, especially when you're still figuring out the beauty of track and field. Like, when I look back at my career, I was like, probably should have done heptathlon, probably should have, but it's bravery. And also, I think, coaches are coaching scene is so much better, but my old school coach background, they were just like, I do this way, and I'm going to be the best at this way, and you're going to display it. And that is just, it needs to be athlete centered. So you need to know the athlete that you're working with, because your formula may not work. And I think I am that conundrum for British athletics and many coaches I had, because they were just like, this is supposed to work. Why? Because you read it in a book. I'm not your typical average athlete. So I wish I did more combination running. I wish I ran my 400 much more. I wish I did more speed sessions. But yeah, I think it was just lack of bravery. We were quite scared.
Like, we're just talking here about how scary the times are these days. So this year in Eugene, Mo ran a 1:55.04, which is 8th fastest time of all time. And you're going back to what Jalimo and Semenya and Anna Kria as well. That was a different era. But this era seems to be producing good times. We're going to come to your event now, Brogan, which is the 100 and 200, which is even more scary, because back in '88, Flojo ran 10.49 for the 100. And
Going
it says here no
down.
wind. Says here no wind, but we saw the flags. But obviously, she proved it in the Olympics. She maintained it and ran a world record in the 200 as well. So we're looking at times we haven't been touched for years. I mean, I remember when Christine Aaron ran a 10.7.
Oh, Christine Aaron.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, European record. That's fantastic. But it's still miles off, the 10.49. And then with the 200 meters as well, we've got 21.34. But here we go. 21 this season and this season and last season. Sherika Jackson is run a 21.45. Elaine Thompson, a 21.53 in the 200. Even Gabby Thomas has run 21.61. Schiffers a few years ago, I remember in the world, she's done 21.63. And then we've got Marion Jones, which is a long time ago. So it shows a lot of these top times now in the 200 are recent. And with the 100 as well, we've got Elaine Thompson and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price running these fantastic 10.5s, 10.6s. How does that make you feel, Brogan, as an athlete, knowing that the targets can be reached?
Yeah, I think the targets can be reached, but it's always like their names is always going to be there. There's always going to be Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price. She's always going to be the woman that has ran that time and that everyone's just trying to beat. You're very lucky if you get someone that runs faster, like they have pure talent. But then it's also, like Marylin said, the training behind it. As long as your training is focused on your strength. So if you know your block start isn't as quick as it needs to be, you need to work on that. As long as it's all fitted around what the athlete needs and not what the coach thinks is right because it's worked once or twice. As long as it's to do with the athlete and everything's focused on their race, then times could go a lot quicker. And I think that's what Jackson, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, I think their coaches like really brought out their strengths and worked on their weaknesses a lot. So they are consistently running those quick times at ages of 35.
And that, which is amazing. Just regarding sprinting, I mean, Marylin, you can talk about this as well, because you can, I'm sure you can do 12-second 100 meters and that kind of thing. But what's it take to be a good sprinter? Okay. There you go, Brogan. That's your next target.
Many moons ago. Wow.
What's it take to be a good sprinter? I mean, what sort of training is required? And obviously in the winter, I was talking about explosiveness and that sort of training. But what does it take? What's the difference between being a sprinter and a long distance runner, maybe, for example? What does it really take to do? You talk about your training drills as well, Brogan, as well. But you guys take it away about sprinting and closing that gap.
I mean, with sprinting, it's more, I always say in shorter races like the 1 and the 2, it's more detrimental if you make a mistake. And what I mean by that is in the 100, if you have a bad start, it's kind of 30 meters of your race already gone. Whereas in maybe a 400, you could bring it back and kind of work on that.
I didn't get going to 200.
But it's like a lot of your training has to be on those little things that some people don't think is that important. So like, especially in the 1, if your first 3 steps aren't really, really quick and you don't work on that, you're going to be the last one out the block and left 20 meters behind. So little things that people don't really think about when they're not in the sport. So like keeping your head relaxed, keeping your shoulders down, going through your driver phase properly. That's what, kind of sets people apart and makes them a lot faster. And what makes it a lot different than long distance is the attention to detail that you need for those short events.
That's massive, don't you think, Marylin? I think she was mentioning there about phases within a sprint. It's amazing. Everyone just thinks you just run flat out, head up straight away, and just get into your top speed. But isn't there a lot more to it than that?
I think, you know what, sometimes we overcomplicate things, but because when you look at Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, I love watching her because she just reminds me of when we used to just run at school, just run. Yeah. But yeah, she just run. But then you've got like someone like a Daryl Nita or Elaine, They're very technical runners, and you can see like all the, even Dina, you can see them put in the race together. So I'll just say it's like a lot of like attention to detail, but focus. And the number one thing I'll say is conditioning, because that is ultimately strength. It's not just about having nice abs. When you look at these athletes, they are conditioned, and that's like all the way through. And so it's diligence, doing those little things. And often, like, you're like, oh, what is the point of this? But the consistency over time, you will see what the point of it is. Sprinters go over, and runners anyway, but sprinters especially go over the same thing over and over and over and over. So it becomes second nature. And that is an actual skill that you need to learn. It's also like, the ability to do that and not tire and not lose your motivation and think, oh, once you start to give into that lazy mindset, it's a wrap for you. Discipline to diet. I think for sprinters, it's very key, because you're not burning energy in the same way, and you may not, do those miles that like distance people will get away with, and actually what you're carrying impacts you. So if you can then turn that, in the gym, what you do there, then that's good. But if you're just carrying excess for the sake of it because of lack of discipline, that's going to show. And so you need to be strong. At the end of the day, I'm not someone that's going to say restrict this. No, because I was told that my whole career. But if what you have, you need to use it, and use it sensibly. So, especially when you get around, and it starts in the winter. There's no point being like, oh, indoors I'll start. No, it's what you start doing in the winter that is going to impact what happens in peak season. So yeah, a lot of kind of discipline. You need explosivity, get out, like you said, you start and set yourself up. And so we see those amazing starts. But then you need the strength to transition and continue and finish. It's so sad when you see people and then, so yeah, I love learning about sprinting a lot more. I literally just ran because that's what I learned. But when I actually listen to these coaches and watch, the sprinters train, it's beautiful. It's poetry in motion, and that takes a lot of key components to put it together. And that's why I do athletics, because it's a performance, and I love to perform, and I'd love to admire and respect all the different elements of it. I was kind of someone that got away with my talent for a long, long time. And then my coach used to always say, hard work will outdo talent that doesn't want to work hard. And so I was like, okay, let me work hard, because, if you don't use it, you lose it. So,
no, you mentioned there about conditioning. Referring back to sprinting again, I know like a lot of the guys who do weight training in the winter, and when they come out like in February, they're very bulky. So it's just about getting your time to peak condition for like the summer months, August, when there's big competition. Is that what you do, Brogan? Because you done your PBs in June, I think. So did you do a lot of weights and then have to condition yourself to get that peak performance in June? What was the strategy?
My coaches were athletes, so they kind of know they know the sport, and they're very involved in it. Till now, they see all the trials that we've done on conditioning, and like seeing the effects of too much training or too little training, and they're very like on point with our training. But when it comes to the gym, we're very like it's very personalized to us. So like, even though there's 5 of us in the gym, not all 5 of us will do the same exact activities, because it's like, let's say one of us has hamstring problems, so they can't do some of the hamstring ones until that's repaired and recovered, and they do their ice. We do our ice baths. We went on a training camp, and we got shoved in a freezing cold pool, and we had to run up and down, and like we had to basically just do everything that pro athletes do. And it's like, to a lot of us, it was a shock, because like Marylin said, we do rely on our talent. Like that's what kind of got us to where we are now. And I did for a long time. And then I went to a competition and I came last, and I was like, oh, this can't happen again. I've got to work hard. But I think conditioning is a very important part of it. But then when you overdo it, it could be detrimental to like your event. Because for me, I'm quite small. I'm 5'3", 5'4". I'm not the biggest in the world. So if I was to come out with massive muscles and get on the start line, I know it wouldn't help me, because you're just carrying something you don't need to. Like you can tone and make sure the muscle is strong enough. You don't need to keep gaining and gaining and gaining to be this explosive and fast person.
So going back, Marylin, you ran your personal best on the 26th of July, 2008, and that was at the trials.
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, televised.
Still my
Yeah.
favorite track to this
Yeah.
day. I wish we used it more.
Just
First of all, I
ask
just
you,
want
did
to
you peak?
clarify. Go on.
Yeah, go ahead. I was
I
going to
just
ask you,
want to
like, how did you
clarify.
peak that year?
So one thing with me, once I hit a certain time, I was able to hold it for a season.
Oh, right.
So I feel like as long as I had a good solid winter, consistent winter, did all the training. I have to say, my training was very potluck. We worked
Okay.
hard. We just worked hard. And I feel like it wasn't very programmed to me. And that's always something that I'll say. But at some point through indoors, I would just find my form and I would
Spot.
hold that.
Yeah.
Um, but what I would say is just quickly touching on conditioning. In my head, it is the thread that holds everything together. Gym is strength. Gym is strength and building muscle, all that stuff. But conditioning, you're talking about your circuits. And back in the day, they did some circuits. And I actually realized we weren't really doing that. Conditioning is the prehab and rehab that you do. And it's taking care of the imbalances and balancing you out so you can string your week together. And I knew when I felt best was when I was conditioned. Um, and so, for me, I had to be very careful about how much muscle I was carrying because I just look at muscles and I'm like, and so often when I wasn't running, that was taking a component out of my training, which would balance me out a certain way. And it was often replaced with, oh, just go in the gym and do this. And actually, that wasn't the right answer. It was like, let's do Pilates, let's do some, cross training, and let's almost do some more of those core, even pull work. Because sometimes if I just kept cleaning and all the stuff that's I was naturally strong. So we had to be mindful of how much raw strength stuff I was doing because what you're doing with those big complex lifts, it's like you're using your big muscles. And then my big muscles are getting bigger, and my little muscles are like, "Oh, help us, please, don't cope." So I often had overuse injuries because my hamstring, my glute med, all of it, they couldn't keep up, And it wasn't until the end I was really doing like these conditioning little things, and it's so individual. There would be an exercise, and I would see like some new coach would come, and everyone was doing that exercise. Why did I need to do it? But such and such, the guru of this, okay, that's fine, but that's not my issue. My issue is my posterior chain and my left, my high hamstring tendinopathy. So why do I do this? Let's look at my pelvis. And so that's why you have to be very athlete centered, person centered, because we're all different. There was a period where everyone's going, oh, I've got one leg longer than the other. Everyone's hips is different. So you have to look at that individual and their strength training, what they do in the gym is based on that. Now, in an ideal world, everyone would have that done. That's, and I strive for excellence. So that's what I feel like coaches need to do. But obviously, a lot of coaches are like, okay, I've got this program. And some things will work generically. But when we're talking about the conditioning, you have to go to the individual and they need to be doing what their body needs to stay balanced. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. Get on that track, feel balanced, hips up, lift them knees and run.
So you can have a program set out for a 800-meter runner, or in Brogan's case, a 100, 200-meter runner, but it's got to be specific to the person, the individual. Is that what you're saying? And just quickly, last point on that. So you ran that time in July, the 26th. They have the trials and then they have the championships. Do you think they should close the gap because it gives you maybe got a month before the championship? You saying you can maintain your times?
Yeah, in athletics, a month isn't that long. And you still need time to do things. So if you imagine, we raced so prolifically, and so there was that you block it, you put it in blocks. And so the first block is like finding your rhythm, finding your form, getting ready for trials to make the team. And once you've made the team, you might do a couple Grand Prix, obviously keep the coin coming in, get that confidence. Then you might want to go into a period of training, and then you're in the camp, and then it's just speed, time trials, rest. So we actually need, 4 weeks actually isn't a lot of time. People used to say, oh my God, you got such a long time in prep camp. Yeah, I need it because remember, we've started this journey from October and we've been going through Indoors, I always ran indoors. That was my escape from cross country. But if I had to do cross country, I would do it too. And then, yeah, once the season, and and again, it is up to the individual. I needed to race because I was rhythmical. I needed to find my rhythm, and it often took me 2-3 races to find my rhythm. Some athletes don't need to do that, and if you've got a fragile athlete, don't be putting them in 6 races to get injured when it's time to perform. Pick your races, make them smart, make sure they've got the right caliber, make sure it's the right caliber of race for where they're at. So what I often see is not everybody's ready to jump into a diamond league straight away. I always went and did my local league. Let me run 202, know where I'm at. Then we'll go to, the level just below. Then I'm ready to face all those beasts for the 800. What I knew is or even the BMC or Watford Opens, I would have a pacemaker that will help me find my rhythm. So again, if that's the planning, there's so much that goes into it. But making sure that it was very specific to you. And that's one thing my coaches were good and my team were good at, is like getting me in the right races when I needed it. And I would hold a rhythm.
Does that ring a bell with you, Brogan, about individual training set for you, not just a broad sense of training? Do you think you need specialist training in certain areas? And do you communicate with your coach as well to say, how you're feeling and what might not be suited to you?
Yeah, my coaches, like Marylin said, we pick out races that we know that we want to do. And some of them could be a month or 2 months apart. But that's just how the big competitions are. They're not going to be every single week, one after the other. So we always pick out, right, okay, so we're not going to do a race 2 weeks before this big national final because we want you training and recovered. But then we also, more towards the start of the season, have little like our league races, just so you get used to, you've got to warm up, you've got to be at the line 20 minutes before your race, you've got to have your numbers on, you've got to have everything. So you kind of get back into the routine of, okay, I've come here to race and I need to be ready 20 minutes before and even longer because they're never on time at the track. So you've got to have your roller, you've got to step in. You've got to always, I think with athletes that are newer athletes, it's a lot different, but athletes that have kind of established their event, know what they're doing, you've got to keep them in, especially in my group, you've got to keep them in a environment of competing because we're all so hungry for a race. And it's like you sometimes let them have that hunger of having that league race, but then rein them back in because you've got a final in 2 weeks that you need to train for. You can't always go to these small races and win. You've got to lose sometimes at these big races, but you could get a better time than you ever would at a small race. It works quite well with the smaller races to have you build yourself up, and then this is what you do when you're at a final.
Guys,
I think I'll just add to that. Sorry, I know we have this kind of big race, small races, but I ran 1:59.0 or 1:59.5 on my own in a B race at a league. So one thing I would like to see a little bit more, which is the kind of mentality they have in America, is each race is feedback for you. So don't ever waste an opportunity. So what you need to get out of a race, do. I never went to a race to run slow. Obviously sometimes it happened, and that was feedback for, okay, I wasn't rested enough, I wasn't trained, and also you need to understand how to run on your own and not feed off everybody else all the time. So that's just one thing. Like, we have this kind of hierarchy of, if you are just going to a race like something you call an easy race, I feel like it needs to have a purpose. And so every race I did was another step to what the big picture was. And whether, maybe because I'm a front runner or whatever, but whether I had a name in it or not, my race was not going to change, and the purpose of why I went there that day was not going to change, whether I was at the Olympic final or Bratislava in the middle of nowhere, So I think just being more intentional, and that's why I didn't have to race that much, because every race had quite a bit of intention. But I was also someone that I respect everyone, I feared no one. So, it could have been anyone lining up next to me. I had my plan and I had my time, or I had what I was supposed to practice. Sometimes I was only going to come out with a 2:05, but that's because my coach said hit that hard, and then or go through and 65 and then come back. Let's work on the second part. But it's kind of just like you said, focusing on what you need to go in and do um, was really important, because when you do get to the championships and you've got heats and things, you want to
Yeah.
be able to tap into that. Okay, this is what
Yeah.
I'm here to do.
Good point. Guys, the one race that we're in right now is a race against time. Unfortunately, it's gone really quick. We're up to an hour. We're going to have to finish up. But I suggest we get back together again. I don't know how you guys feel about this. Get back together and finish this convo, and just maybe have a regular thing here where we come on and talk athletics and track and field and talk about your journey, because this is we're going to follow Joe Brogan's journey for sure. So, guys, stay on while we close the show. Just want to say to everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're going to share the show. Hopefully, you can listen in. I know a lot of people, some of my people, are going to tune in and really sort of throw some questions back, and maybe suggest more questions for you guys for the future. You know, we had a lot on our agenda today, but it's been so fruitful. We've been talking so much, so passionately about it. So yeah, just going to go to you, Marylin. Where can we find you? Where can we hit you up, or what are you doing right now?
Amazing. So yeah, Marylin Okoro, as on the screen, across all the socials. Obviously I work in corporate now, so I'm spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, but I'm trying to make that a social platform. Instagram is where I love to be, and obviously Facebook. Doing a lot of work in sort of advocacy for mental health, but also athlete welfare and safeguarding in especially track and field. That is my love, but across all sports. So yeah, please, we'll be back with track and field. This is what happens with track and field. There's so much to digest. I want to know how everyone's finding this literal crazy summer. We've had world champs, we've had Commonwealth, Europeans. I'm going to be out in Munich. Maybe we should have a show when I'm out in Munich.
Yes.
I want to hear what everyone would love to see from their athletes. I just want to know, because one thing about track and field, the fans and the supporters, they make it. That's what literally makes it. And I'm so grateful to everyone that has supported my journey, because you may not realize it, but it means so much to us. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Omondi, for hosting us.
Thank you.
I'm a fan. Brogan, I'm a fan of yours as well. Can you let us know what you do, where we can find you? And
you can find me on Instagram. It's just Brogan McCafferty, MCCAFFERTY. Blame my dad for the long name. Where I post all my races with the time and the results and the wind, and I just keep everyone updated, because I am quite lucky to have that friends and family that are really supportive. And like you have my auntie on Instagram, her whole Instagram feed is me. So it's just anywhere on Instagram. On my Instagram, there's a whole file of my athletics, and I keep it regularly updated.
Brilliant. Guys, I'm really sad to be leaving like this, but
we'll be back.
It's been great. It's been great. Hopefully, we will be back. Yeah, with the Europeans coming up. Hopefully, anyone to look out for? Any things? Anyone peaking for this European competition?
I mean, I'm just so impressed that they are quite, done all the same people have done all the championships. So I want to see Keely get a gold. She has been, silver fox this last 2 years. She's desperate for that gold. I want to see Gemma Reekie. She's starting to round into some nice shape. She ran 1:58 last night in Monaco. Jake Whiteman, he's exciting me.
Won the 1,000 meters.
Whoa, British record 1,000. So that's it.
In the Commonwealths. I thought he should have won the Commonwealth.
No, he tried. Dina, I want to see her back on top. Hopefully that injury scare has history now. But yeah, Brogan, let's hear from you. What are you looking forward to?
I want my main aim to see Dina back on the track. She's just someone that's like, you can just tell that's all she wants, and all she wants is to be back on the track. And for her to come back and maybe not even run a PB, but run in a race where she can just execute how she always does. Like, she always somehow, no matter what, has put on a great race despite injuries, despite anything. So for her to come back and just push the girls like we know she can run those quick times, she can win medals. So we want to see her come back and do it.
Also,
the best since Kathy Cook.
Yeah, well, speaking of 400, Vicky Ohurugu, following in the mantle of her sister, I just think she's just doing amazing. It's not easy, having someone so just a legend as your sister, and so to step out the shadows and be stepping up and
I know how
establishing your
Daniel
authority.
feels.
Daniel, he's my biggest supporter, man. He's actually more athletic than me, so I literally
I know he
expect
runs
someone
all
more.
day. He runs all day.
Yeah, but yeah,
guys,
really
we're going
excited
to
to
wrap it
see.
up. We have to wrap it. It's been a blessing to have you both on. We're going to see you again soon, hopefully. Make sure we share the shows, put it out there, and we'll be back for another episode, maybe around the Europeans when Marylin's available, or maybe just after. But God bless you all. Thank you very much, and we're out.